investing feels like I'm gambling.
And I have to say that I do think it is gambling in a way. I can be called a professional gambler.
Stocks for me is something that like, because I don't understand it, I don't even want to go near it. So I kind of feel like, oh, is there any point in even starting? I'm already behind.
Yeah. Hello, I'm here to talk about all things money. My name is Emir and I have Yasmin with me here today. I think you want to talk about investing, right?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so where do you want to start? Investing is like
It's a really big topic.
I don't even know where to
Really,
start.
really big topic. So, okay, so some background about me.
Okay.
I'm 27 years old. And I still live with my parents, which means that I obviously don't pay for electricity,
Really? Obviously.
utilities, and stuff
I
like
hope my mom's watching this because I live with her and I pay rent.
that. Yeah, well, I don't pay rent.
Okay.
So like a lot of my spendings are, I guess, just for like myself, personal spendings. With that being said, like when I get like my monthly salary and stuff like that, like I'm not stingy, but I'm a good saver.
Okay, that's good.
But I'm also not comfortable just like kind of knowing that the money that I've accumulated, that savings is sort of just sitting
there.
Yeah. So like, I don't really know where to begin. I know tons of people who've, gotten into like the crypto game when they were like, I don't know, 20, 21.
Yeah.
I also know people who've gotten into like the property game, into Forex and like stuff like that. And it's a bit overwhelming basically.
For sure.
So I don't know where to even start.
Okay. So you have money saved up, right?
Yes, I have like a savings account.
Okay.
Like a separate one that I just like don't touch.
Like your feelings about investing, does it come from fear of investing or is it just really, I have no idea where to start at all?
Okay, so this might be a bit, maybe, I don't think it's controversial because I think a lot of people feel this way as well.
Okay.
That like investing feels like I'm gambling.
It is not.
So I know there are investments that are like Sharia compliant. Sharia compliant.
Yep.
But like to me, it feels like I'm gambling away because I understand that there are certain risks and stuff like that. So I'm not really a risk taker.
Okay.
So that's why it freaks me out.
Okay. Yeah.
So that I don't know like, okay, am I better off going into property because it's not as risky as crypto? Like,
Okay.
I don't have a measure of that.
Okay. Yeah. I think a lot of people feel the same way as you. So I guess not super controversial, but I guess to some people they might think that this is a bit off, right? Just my opinion on this. So I am a trader by profession, right?
Yeah.
And I have to say that I do think it is gambling in a way. Just because gambling is basically putting your money somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Having a bet without having a certain outcome.
Yes,
right?
that is literally the definition in the dictionary.
And
right?
that is trading, that's investing, right? So I don't deny that I can be called a professional gambler. But so there's this guy called Warren Buffett. Do you know him?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. So he said over the short term, the stock market is a popularity vote, which means it can swing anyway, right? Just based on who's popular. But over the long term, it's a weighing machine, which means that it will be accurate, right? If you invest in the right things over the long term, you should be fine. Okay, but another thing that I want to talk about is you mentioned crypto, you mentioned Forex, property. My favorite investment is stocks. Okay, that's mine, yeah. But one thing I guess to differentiate very early on is there is a difference between investing and trading. When you say you see people investing and then you say Forex, no one really invests in currencies.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no one invests in currencies. It's more of a short-term bet, so it's a trade, right? When we talk about investing, or from my point of view at least, when we talk about investing, we're talking about buying something for the long term that over time will appreciate, right? Whereas traders, like what I do at my full-time job, we take short-term bets. Like we think because this company is going to release like good earnings, I think that's going to happen. I'm going to buy and then next week I'm going to sell it, right? But for investors, they look at it more from a long-term perspective, which there are a lot of ways you can do this, a lot of different instruments that you can use this with.
Yeah. Okay, let's actually touch on that a little bit. So I kind of feel like, with investing, you're kind of like putting this money aside essentially for
Yep.
you to like have a look at in like 50 years.
Okay,
But
yeah.
maybe it feels a bit
Long.
long.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm also impatient. I'm just
Yeah.
an impatient kind of person. Like I do want to see results,
Yeah.
not in 50 years, not in 40 years. Like I want to see like in like 5 to 10.
Yeah, actually, it is possible.
You
It is
know?
possible. Yeah, I feel you. But one thing that a lot of people get a bit, they misunderstand or they have a wrong perception of investing is that I have friends who've invested 100 ringgit and then the next month they're like, how come my 100 ringgit is not 1,000 ringgit now? And I was like, oh my God. If it was,
That's
a lot of people like that, I'm like, if you can get 100 into 1,000 in 1 month, I'll put 1 million and get 100 million in a month as well, right? So it takes time. Like investing is a slow and steady game, but over time it really compounds. Okay, but let's address your question. So I like to see investing as there's different stages to investing. A lot of people are like you. I know a lot of Malaysians who they keep their money in the bank account because they're like, I work so hard to earn this money, right?
Yeah.
I work like, do you know how much money you're getting on your savings account? How much profit they pay you? Like 0. Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but I've had money there.
No,
Yeah.
I should know, but this is the thing. Like it's sitting in my account. I don't know what's happening
Yeah.
to it. Like it just, I mean, I just put
This is, yeah,
to
it
it,
feels
you know
safe,
what I
right? And it is safe for sure. It is safe, yeah. But I think, okay, most banks, I think, would pay you maybe 0.1%. So if 0.1% a year, so if you had 100,000 ringgit in your bank account, in a year, 0.1%, you'll get 100 ringgit, which no one's getting rich of that.
exactly.
We're not retiring early of that, yeah. So I like to see it this way. When people are afraid of investing, they don't know where to start. To me, there are steps to investing. So for someone like you are at the very, very early stages where all your money is in a bank account, you haven't explored investing yet, right? So to me, the next step for you would to look at safe investments. So investments that wouldn't fluctuate too much. Exactly, low risk.
Right.
But of course, with low risk comes low reward, right? You have to take risk to get reward. But we'll get there. We'll get there slowly, right? So low risk investments, Malaysia, we have a lot of good options.
Okay.
And what I like to go for low risk investments is investments that have a fixed asset price, which means that one unit will always equal to a certain price. Right? I'll give you a good example of this. ASB. You've heard of ASB, Amanah
I
Saham?
have ASB.
Oh, you have ASB?
Yes. I don't really know like
Okay.
what to even do with it.
ASB, if you're Bumi Putra, you can go for ASB. If you're
Yes.
non-Bumi, you'll have to go for something like ASM, Amanah Saham Malaysia.
Right.
Right. But if you go to the website, you'll see under products, they have something called fixed price products, or harga tetap.
Okay.
Right? Which means that one unit will always be 1 ringgit.
Right.
So by putting money into ASB, you cannot lose money. Like one unit will always be 1 ringgit. The only way that I would say you can lose money is if because they invest in companies like Maybank, invest in companies like all the big companies in Malaysia. So if ASB loses all the money, it means that all these companies probably went to zero, which then means we have a lot bigger problems as Malaysians, right? Yeah. So
yes.
it is riskier than putting it into a bank account. Because bank account, you have PIDM protection and all that. This one, there's no PIDM protection, but this is almost as safe as you can get for investing. So for people like you who just want to start out, I would say put money into things like ASB. Right? So ASB, the way it works is since the price doesn't move up and down, they pay out dividends every year. I'm sure you know, right?
Yes.
They're kind of like EPF where I think last year they paid out 5.4%,
Yes,
something like that. So
Yes,
every year, if you're at 100,000 ringgit, instead of getting 100 ringgit from your savings account, at least now you have 5,400 ringgit from ASB, which is a lot better.
Yes.
Right? It's a lot better already. And honestly, if we are talking about like American investment stuff like that, if they knew about ASB and if they had this option, they would be, this is like almost a dream investment out there. It really is extremely good. Yeah. So other options out there, they are similar in how they work in terms of risk and reward, are money market funds. They are basically very, very short-term deposits. So these funds, they basically take investors' money and they put it into fixed deposits and stuff. Fixed deposits is also another option. At least you're getting something, right? So those would pay around 3.5%. So this is where I think most people should start. This is like, at least you're not worried about losing your money, right? At least you know in ASB, in money market funds, it should be extremely safe.
Right.
So that's the first step that you should get to. I think
Right.
most of your money, you should move it there just because they're extremely liquid anyway. If you needed the cash to go on holiday, you can take it out from ASB and spend it if that's what you wanted to do.
Right.
Right. So that is the first step. And then I would say that a lot of people need to learn how to take risks. Actually, this is my hot take. This is my hot take, right?
Right.
Yeah, not just with investing, but we're going to talk about investing today specifically, right? You have to take risks. You can't.
I'm scared.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are, but you can't expect to not take risks and then have an amazing life where, you are rich and you're enjoying everything. It just doesn't work that way, right? If you are so scared of taking risks, you want to just stay in one company for the rest of your life, it's very unlikely that you're going to be, at the very top, right? And it's the same with investing. If you want the higher returns, you have to take a bit of risk. So this is when we get into things like stocks. We get into things like,
honestly, when you say stocks, I get scared immediately because I think it's also because I don't understand it.
okay,
I kind of get scared by it.
Okay.
Because I think maybe that's something that a lot of people can relate to.
okay,
You kind of fear what you don't know.
yep.
So stocks for me is something that because I don't understand it, I don't even want to go near it.
Okay,
That's my problem.
A very quick TLD on what stocks are. So stocks represent ownership of a company.
Okay.
Right, so let's say, I'll just give an example, Maybank, right? So Maybank as a company, they make money and they make profits. Right, they have their revenue, they have their profits. So Maybank is a publicly traded company, which means anyone can own, partially Maybank. Obviously, we won't own the entire Maybank, right? But you can own a part of Maybank by buying stocks of Maybank.
Right.
Right. So a share, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So these companies, they will have, let's say, for example, Maybank has 1 million shares, right? Anybody can buy any amount of those shares to have partial ownership. So if you have one share out of 1 million, so you own 1 millionth. Is that 1 millionth of Maybank? That's what you own, exactly. Yeah. So technically, you can go to the shareholder meetings. You can vote. You can vote for that.
Is that actually right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can go and be like, I don't like this guy as a CEO, but your vote is worth a millionth. Yeah, one over a million. Yeah.
So basically, nothing.
Nothing. You're no one. Yeah. So mainly the guys who can decide are the big shareholders. So these are guys like ASB, like EPF. They invest in Maybank and they get to vote. And unfortunately, they have a bit more money than us. Just a bit, maybe.
Just a bit more money.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is shares in a nutshell. So if you bought into something like Apple 20 years ago when it was a no-name company, right? I have ownership of Apple. And if I held it until today, obviously I'd be a lot richer because Apple is now a much bigger company making a lot more money. Yeah, so that's stocks in a nutshell. And it's why it's my favorite investment because I like to invest in businesses. Like businesses can grow and I want to be a part of that growth, right? So stocks have it has a value attached to it. Unlike crypto where, there's no real revenue, there's no real profit, it's all just
tangible.
It's not tangible, exactly. Stocks are tangible, right? These companies, they are real companies and they make money, right? Whatever happens, Apple is still going to sell iPhones, they're still going to make money, right? So those are stocks. In a nutshell, you kind of get it? Get the gist, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is stock ownership. It is my favorite investment. And I would say, if you wanted to dabble into it, a lot of people also don't want to get into stocks because honestly, you can lose money in stocks.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't want
Even if you buy Maybank, even if you buy like super huge sound companies like Apple, you can lose money. You can lose 20, 30, even 50%. It's not unheard of, right?
That's nuts. But that's actually true.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. But you also have to see it the other way. If you invested in Apple 20 years ago, you're probably up like 20,000%, which you would never achieve in a fixed deposit. It would take you like 1,000 years to get that, right? So it gives you outsized returns that you could never get by being safe. But it comes at a cost of taking the risk. So then people think, how do I take this risk? How do I lose this money, right? How can I be comfortable potentially losing this money, right? So the easy answer to that is to just start smaller. I think with most things, if you're scared, we're not comfortable, we don't know how it works, just start small. So if you have 100,000 ringgit and you want to just try around, just start 1,000 ringgit and buy some stocks that you like and see how it goes. I mean, if you lose 1,000 ringgit and you have 100,000, of course it still hurts, but it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's like, okay, it's a good lesson for me to learn. Hopefully. Okay, fine. 1,000 is too much. 500 even. These days, you can start really cheap. Yeah, 500 ringgit. You can even start with that.
But then how do I decide what, like you said, right? Like stocks that I like.
Okay.
How can I decide what stocks do I like?
Okay, so that's a tough part. So I used to say you can always start off with companies that you like companies that you use their products of. So you have a lot of Nikes. you can invest in Nike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you're like an Apple fanboy, I'm an Apple fanboy. I like iPhone, MacBook,
Right.
AirPods, Apple Watch,
Okay.
everything. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I know this company, my friends, I know they like it. A lot of people are converting. I'm going to buy Apple shares. So that's one way, a very simplistic way to do things.
Right.
But what I've been advocating more for these days is ETFs. So this is again going to be another new topic for you, right?
Yes.
So ETFs is meant to make things even simpler. All right. So ETF, think of it as like a basket of stocks. So instead of just choosing one stock, this ETF is saying, you know what? I'll buy the 500 biggest companies in the US and I'll put it under one ETF. So it's called the S&P 500.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, have you heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay. Yeah. So the S&P 500 holds the 500 largest companies in the US. It's like, JP Morgan, Nike, all these guys are all in the S&P 500. So instead of thinking, which company do I want to buy, I can just buy the ETF, S&P 500, and I will own 500 different companies just by buying the ETF alone.
So you basically put in the money and it will split itself to
Exactly.
Okay.
Into those 500 companies.
evenly?
No, so it's based on how big those companies are. So the
Right.
Apples of the world will have the largest allocations just because they're the largest companies, and then the smaller companies will get a smaller allocation. So
Okay.
even personally, I used to invest in stocks. I used to think that, I was smart. I was the next Warren Buffett. I'm going to find the next Apple, right? But it's not so easy. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. You need a lot of work. So a lot of people that ask me these days, friends, family, I tell them, you know what? Just put in ETFs and just call it a day. You will probably just do better, S&P 500, over the last 10 years, on average, it's returned 12% a year, which is
Ooh.
a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. Compared to your 0.1% savings account.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no guarantee there'll be 12% a year moving forward, right? There's no guarantee of that. But that is what it has been returning over the last 10 years. I think over the last 50 years, maybe 7-8%, but it's still good.
Yeah, that's
right?
still really, really good.
So you don't have to go all in. And you know what? I'm going to take out everything from my savings account and throw it into the S&P 500. You can, like I said, start small, get used to this, the feeling of seeing the value of your account go up and down. And then as you get more comfortable, just slowly increase.
So I can maybe put a little bit in ASB, a little bit in that like SP 500.
S&P 500. Yeah.
500. Is there a Malaysian version of the S&P 500?
So there's something called the FBM KLCI.
FBM.
KLCI, yeah. If you listen to the radio, you'll hear the FBM KLCI today is up 20 points, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the 30 largest companies in Malaysia. So names like Maybank, Tenaga, Public Bank. Petronas is not listed. Petronas is Petronas Oil and Gas is not listed. Petronas Dagangan, Petronas Chemicals, those are listed. Yeah. So those would be under the 30 largest companies in Malaysia, and you can invest in that as well. Yeah. I would love to support Malaysian stocks. I do own a bit lah, but like the majority of my portfolio is in the US now. Just because US has been dominant for very, very long.
Is it because it's safer? I mean, when I say safer as in like it's lower risk?
Not really. Actually, I would say it's higher risk than Malaysia. But
okay.
if you think about the biggest companies over the last 20 years, right, especially in the tech age, we're talking about Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Facebook, the commonality is they're all from the US. There is no Apple of Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest growth tends to come from the US. Again, it doesn't mean it will continue in the future. Maybe China will start picking up, Europe will start picking up. That could be what happens in the future. But you can also diversify. There are ETFs that you can own to own China, to own a bit of Europe and stuff like that. So as you get into it, you realize that it can be very simple. There are a lot of things to learn, but you can really simplify it.
Yeah. I know, definitely. I mean, basically, I have one last question.
Okay.
Because I think like the topic of investing in itself is so big.
Yeah, it's so broad.
So we'll continue this conversation later. But my last question is, I also have this feeling of, I feel a bit left behind.
Okay.
Like I said at the beginning, right? I'm 27
Yep.
and I feel like maybe it's just my group of friends,
Okay.
but like a lot of them got into investing when they were 20, 21, 22. And I feel like I'm really,
You're a bit
really
behind,
late.
right?
Yeah, I'm really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
behind. So I kind of feel like, is there any point in even starting?
Okay.
Because like I'm already behind.
Yep.
Like, I feel like things are just getting more and more like expensive.
Yep.
So that's why I'm also a bit hesitant about starting at all.
People who are like in their 30s watching this, they'll be like, oh, this girl's 27 and she's saying that. But I started when I was 22, and even then I felt like someone else started at 17 and I'm 22 now.
Oh, right.
So there will always be someone else who started earlier than you, who's earning more than you, who has a bigger portfolio, got better returns, right? The way I see it is, I think just compare with yourself, just compete with yourself. If last year, 2024, you had 0 ringgit invested into the stock market, this year if you can do 1,000 ringgit, I would say, good job, Yasmin. I think that's growth from last year. So don't compare to other people, right? I've heard of people who have started in their 30s, in their 40s. They still have a good 20, 30 years to go to retirement. And if you can get 10% a year, then, I mean, so what if people started earlier? I'm on my own race, right? I think that's basically personal finance for me. Yeah, you're on your own journey. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've always felt like a bit, I guess, left behind because I think financial literacy is so important.
It is.
And it's something that unfortunately I don't have the biggest how do I say it?
Exposure.
Exposure.
Yeah.
And also when I want to go out there and like research, like it's just so overwhelming.
There's too much, right?
So the easiest way that like I can think about it is just like, actually, I don't want to think about it.
I
don't want to think about it at all. And like, okay, I'm already late anyway, so it doesn't matter. Like, I don't get into it anyway. But like when I listen to like my friends talking about like, investments that they made or whatever, I always feel a bit like I wish I
got into Bitcoin at $100, right? I'll be retired by now.
I know so many people who like got into crypto, not specifically Bitcoin. I mean, there's so many ones, right? But I literally knew people who got into it like when I was still in university. So that was what, like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
And I used to be like, oh my God, like you're literally gambling. What are you doing? Like you're so, you're so.
And then now they're retired and here you are working.
Yeah, I know. And then I'm here like sitting in my regret, basically.
Yeah, but I think, so comparison is a thief of joy. I think no matter how much you have, there will be someone who has more than you. So no point comparing to other people, right? I think focus on your own journey. And I get what you mean. That's why I said, I don't give financial advice, but hypothetically, if I were you, I would start looking into things like ASB, ETFs, like the S&P 500, and just go at your own pace. Go at your own pace as long as you start, right? As long as you start. Don't think, it's too late for me to be a millionaire by 30. I won't do it at all. I think just start somewhere.
Start low and slow.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you guys in the next one.